There are times when silence is a mark of wisdom, but there are also moments when staying silent means losing yourself. In life, each of us will face situations where we must choose: remain silent to avoid conflict, or speak up to defend what is right. Stoicism teaches us that silence at the wrong moment can be a form of self-imprisonment, trapping ourselves in fear, in cowardice, and in the very limits we impose upon ourselves. Today, we will explore 5 situations where you should never stay silent. If you truly want to take control of your life, if you seek to be strong, unshaken by negative emotions, listen closely and never forget this lesson. 1. When your expertise can help others. There is a truth many fail to recognize. Withholding knowledge does not make you more powerful. It only wastes its value. We do not learn simply to keep knowledge to ourselves, but to share it, to make an impact, and to help those in need. No one reaches the top of the mountain alone. They climb with the guidance, tools, and wisdom provided by others. So why remain silent when what you know could make a difference? Sharing is not about boasting or lecturing. It is about contributing, about preventing others from making the same mistakes we once did. Sometimes, a single well-timed piece of advice can change the course of a person's life. Marcus Aurelius once said, "What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee." This means that if you think only of yourself and not the community, you will ultimately suffer as well. When you share knowledge, you do not just help others, you deepen your own understanding. Teaching is one of the most effective ways to solidify knowledge, sharpen thinking, and broaden perspective. When you explain something to others, you are forced to think more clearly, articulate more effectively, and in doing so, you elevate your own expertise. No one can truly master a skill without ever attempting to teach it. The truth is, those who excel in their fields understand that they have a responsibility to help those who come after them, because that is the only way a community can grow and thrive. Yet one fear often holds us back: the fear of being judged, the fear of being seen as pretentious. We worry that by speaking up, we may be misunderstood, criticized, or unintentionally offend someone. But the real danger is not being judged. It is allowing those around us to struggle in darkness when we hold the light that could guide them. Imagine a friend making a poor decision, a colleague struggling with a skill you have already mastered, or a loved one trapped by the same mistakes you once made. Do you truly wish to watch them stumble through uncertainty when you have the knowledge that could help? Stoicism does not teach self-promotion, but it also does not advocate self-erasure. We do not need to preach, nor do we need to impose our views on others, but we can share with humility, respect, and sincerity. Let others know you are here to help, but allow them the choice to accept it. Listen first. Seek to understand before offering advice. Do not speak to prove your intelligence. Speak because you genuinely want to see others improve. A well-placed word can mean the difference between success and failure, between hope and despair. We cannot force anyone to accept our guidance, but we can plant a seed. And sometimes, that seed will take root when they need it most. Remember, no one succeeds alone. Every teacher was once a student. Every master once had a mentor. If someone once helped you grow, now is the time to do the same for others. We do not share knowledge to gain recognition, nor to assert superiority, but because wisdom only holds value when it is passed on. When you help someone, when you guide them through difficulty, you are doing the best possible thing, not just for them, but for yourself. Always remember, greatness is not measured by what you keep, but by what you give. 2. When a mistake needs to be corrected. There is an uncomfortable truth we often avoid. Mistakes are inevitable. No matter how intelligent, experienced, or well-prepared you are, you will make errors. But the real issue is not that mistakes happen. It is how we respond to them. Many people choose to ignore their missteps, pretend they never happened, or shift the blame onto circumstances, others, or anything but themselves. But avoidance only delays the consequences, and eventually, those consequences return, often magnified. Stoicism teaches us that obstacles are not roadblocks. They are the path itself. If a mistake arises in your life, it is not a sign to retreat, but an opportunity to learn, adjust, and improve. One of the main reasons we fear admitting mistakes is the worry of being judged. We are afraid that acknowledging our faults will make others look down on us, erode trust, or diminish our credibility. But in reality, people do not lose respect for those who take responsibility for their mistakes and correct them. On the contrary, it is avoidance, procrastination, and blame shifting that destroy trust. A great leader is not one who never makes mistakes, but one who takes responsibility and swiftly corrects them. A strong-minded person is not someone who has never failed, but someone who confronts their failures and extracts valuable lessons. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." In other words, your mistakes do not define you. How you respond to them does. There is an important reality to accept. Mistakes do not simply disappear. You can ignore them. You can temporarily conceal them. But eventually, they will surface with even greater consequences. A small error at work, if left unaddressed, can lead to a failed project. A misunderstanding, if not clarified in time, can destroy a relationship. A bad habit, if not corrected, can slowly erode your life. Imagine a minor crack in a dam. You might dismiss it as insignificant, but if left unrepaired, that crack can cause a catastrophic flood. The truth is, no mistake is too small to overlook, because even the smallest errors, when compounded over time, can lead to the greatest disasters. So what should you do when you recognize a mistake? The first step is to accept reality. Do not justify, do not blame, do not attempt to cover it up. Face your mistake directly, analyze it objectively, and acknowledge it honestly. This does not mean dwelling in guilt or self-punishment. It means seeing things as they are, without distortion. Once you have identified the mistake, the next crucial step is action. If it is a small error at work, take the initiative to admit it and correct it immediately. If it is a misunderstanding, reach out and clarify before it escalates. If it is a bad habit, start making small changes to break the cycle. A mistake is not the end. It is a stepping stone to becoming better, but only if you take action. Many fear that admitting their mistakes will cause them to lose the trust of others. But the truth is, trust is not built on perfection. It is built on honesty. People do not expect you to be flawless, but they do to expect you to be accountable. A person who owns up to their mistakes and takes action to fix them will always command more respect than someone who hides behind excuses or evades responsibility. Finally, remember this: no one grows without making mistakes. The difference between those who succeed and those who fail is not the number of mistakes they make, but how they handle them. If you choose to remain silent in the face of an error, you are missing an opportunity to grow. If you have the courage to confront, accept, and correct it, you not only prevent worse consequences, but also build a stronger, wiser version of yourself. Mistakes do not define your downfall. They are lessons that help you rise, and only those who have the courage to correct their mistakes can truly take control of their lives. 3. When the truth is distorted, Truth is one of the most fundamental pillars of integrity and trust among people. But in life, the truth is not always spoken, and not everyone has the courage to defend what is right. Sometimes, out of fear of confrontation, out of a desire to maintain temporary harmony, or out of worry about isolation and conflict, many choose silence when the truth is being distorted. Yet, this is when silence becomes complicity, an act that erodes personal ethics and undermines the very values that hold society together. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not sue it." Stoicism does not encourage us to seek conflict or argument, but it does teach that honesty and integrity should never be sacrificed for the sake of short-term comfort. Imagine yourself in an important meeting where your superior presents misleading numbers to paint a better picture of the company's situation. You know the figures are inaccurate, but you also know that speaking up could make you seem like a troublemaker, upset your boss, or even jeopardize your position. What would you do? Most people choose silence, telling themselves it is not their responsibility, that speaking up would change nothing, that it is safer to stay quiet. But what happens if that deception leads to poor decisions? What happens if the company, relying on false data, makes strategic missteps and collapses losses? If you had the chance to correct it from the beginning and chose not to, are you truly blameless? Staying silent in the face of dishonesty does not make you wise. It makes you part of the problem. Many fear that telling the truth will cause harm, but in reality, it is deception that causes the most damage. Relationships do not crumble because of hard truths. They collapse under the weight of prolonged deceit. Organizations do not fail because someone had the courage to speak up, but because lies accumulated for too long until they became impossible to undo. Look at the great scandals throughout history, from corporate fraud to individuals concealing their wrongdoings for years. Most of these collapses did not result from a single mistake, but from the failure to correct them early on, because too many people saw the truth, but chose to remain silent. Stoicism does not teach us to wield the truth as a weapon or to harm others with blunt words. It teaches that truth should be spoken wisely, with respect and compassion. Sometimes the key is not what you say, but how you say it. If you see someone misunderstanding a situation, do not attack them. Ask questions, offer a different perspective. Help them recognize the truth on their own, rather than forcing them to accept it. If you witness a decision being made based on false information, approach the matter constructively, rather than with the intent to undermine anyone. When you stand for the truth, you are not only helping others, you are preserving your own integrity, something that, once lost, is incredibly difficult to regain. A person of integrity is not someone who has never faced moral dilemmas, but someone who knows how to act rightly when they do. If you allow falsehoods to persist without challenge, you are enabling them. If you see wrongdoing and turn away, you are giving it permission to spread. Truth may be uncomfortable, but it is the foundation of trust, stability, and long-term progress. A society cannot advance if it is built on lies. An individual cannot grow if they base their life on avoidance. When faced with a situation where the truth is being distorted, ask yourself, if I stay silent today, will I be at peace with myself tomorrow? Do you want to live in a world where people prioritize personal convenience over what is right? Do you want to be someone others can trust, or merely someone who remains quiet to protect themselves? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Live each day as if it were your last. Do not let fear or trivial concerns prevent you from doing what is right." If today were your final day, would you want to be remembered as someone who stood for the truth, or as someone who remains silent in its absence. Truth is not always easy to speak, but if you do not defend it, who will? If you do not have the courage to speak up, then who will be strong enough to do so? The world does not need more people who choose silence in the face of dishonesty. It needs those who are strong enough to stand firm, who are unwavering in their principles, and who are courageous enough to protect what is right, even when it offers no immediate reward. When you defend the truth, you are not just upholding your values. You are shaping a world you can be proud to be part of. 4. When your boundaries are violated, personal boundaries are not just rules you set to protect yourself. They are a reflection of how you value yourself. If you do not defend your boundaries, others will see it as an invitation to cross them. And once you allow that to happen, you do not just lose control. You slowly lose yourself. Stoicism teaches that no one can master their life if they cannot first master themselves. This means that if you do not establish limits, you will always be pulled by the desires of others, living according to their expectations instead of the life you truly want. Epictetus once said, "If you don't want to be controlled, do not hand over your power to others." When someone repeatedly crosses your boundaries, it is not their fault. It is because you have allowed it. Perhaps you have encountered situations where someone constantly asks for your help, drains your time and energy, yet never reciprocates. You may feel frustrated, taken advantage of, but to avoid conflict, you continue to comply. Or maybe a family member repeatedly borrows money without repaying, and you convince yourself that helping them is the right thing to do. Yet deep inside, you feel resentment, trapped in a cycle you cannot escape. Or perhaps you are in a relationship where your needs and emotions are consistently ignored, but you remain silent out of fear of losing the connection. What happens when you continue like this? You begin to feel exhausted, lost, and disconnected from your own sense of worth. The truth is, if you do not speak up when your boundaries are crossed, you are sending a message that they do not matter. If you constantly agree to things that make you uncomfortable, you are teaching others that they can continue their behavior without consequence. Take a moment to reflect on your life right now. How many times have you felt uneasy about someone's demands, but still said yes? How many times have you wanted to say no, but lacked the courage? Every time you fail to defend your boundaries, you weaken yourself, making it easier for others to manipulate, control, and diminish you. So how do you protect your boundaries without becoming rigid or distant? First, understand that boundaries are not walls that isolate you from the world, but shields that guard you from what does not align with your values. Setting boundaries does not mean pushing people away. It means creating a healthier environment for both yourself and those around you. Remember, declining a request does not mean rejecting a person. When someone asks you to do something you are unwilling to do, you have the right to say no, clearly and respectfully. You do not need elaborate excuses or apologies. A simple, firm response like, "I'm sorry, but I can't do that," is enough. Direct, confident, and without justification. However, some people will not accept your boundaries easily. They may react negatively, try to guilt trip you, or even threaten to leave if you do not comply. This is when you must remember, those who truly respect you will not force you to go against your own will. If a relationship depends on you constantly sacrificing yourself to please the other person, it is not a healthy relationship. You are not obligated to hold on to people who continually disregard your limits. You have the right to decide who stays in your life and who does not deserve a place in it. Stoicism does not teach us to sever ties with everyone or to become indifferent. It teaches that kindness is not the same as weakness. You can help others, but not at the cost of losing yourself. You can be generous, but not by sacrificing your self-respect. When you set boundaries, you are not only protecting yourself, you are also teaching those around you that they must take responsibility for their own actions. And the most important realization, when you start enforcing your boundaries, you will see a simple truth. Those who truly respect you will honor them, and those who cannot accept them were never meant to stay. When you live in alignment with your values, you will naturally attract people who appreciate you for who you are, not just for what you can do for them. Do not fear disappointing others, because if someone's happiness depends entirely on you obeying their wishes, that happiness was never meant for you. Remember, you cannot control how others react, but you can control how you protect yourself. You have the right to say no. You have the right to set limits. You have the right to decide how you want to be treated. And when you finally embrace this, you will experience a freedom like never before. 5. When you witness injustice, injustice is neither distant nor abstract. It surrounds us daily, from the smallest of incidents to events that shape entire communities. A colleague is unfairly blamed simply because they lack a voice in the company. A child is bullied at school while bystanders look on in silence. A person is treated unfairly due to their status, skin color, or circumstances that set them apart from the majority. In these moments, most people choose silence. They tell themselves it is not their business, that it is best not to get involved, that things will eventually resolve on their own. But the truth is, nothing ever resolves itself unless someone stands against it. Stoicism does not encourage reckless confrontation or pointless arguments, but it teaches that justice cannot be upheld if everyone remains silent. Marcus Aurelius once said, "What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee." When injustice occurs in society, it does not only affect the victim, it disrupts balance, erodes morality, and one day it may come for you. Many people ignore injustice not because they condone it, but because they are afraid. They fear that speaking up will lead to isolation, backlash, or even punishment. But put yourself in the position of the one suffering. If you were the victim of injustice, would you want someone to stand up for you? Would you want to know that in your most difficult moments, someone was willing to speak the truth for your sake? If you expect that from others, why should you not be the one to do it? Epictetus once said, "If you want a just society, begin by being a just person." We cannot hope for a better world if we ourselves lack the courage to defend what is right. One common misconception is that fighting injustice requires grand, heroic actions. But the truth is, even the smallest actions can create change. It could be offering a word of encouragement to someone who is being wronged, asking a question in a meeting that forces people to acknowledge the truth, sending an email to clarify a misunderstanding, or simply refusing to participate in spreading false narratives. If you cannot directly protect someone, at least do not enable injustice by silently accepting it. History has shown that great changes always begin with small acts. If no one had dared to speak up, would there be movements for equality? If no one had resisted oppression, would anyone have fought against tyranny? The world does not change because of one person alone, but one person speaking out can inspire another, then another, until it becomes a movement. You may think of yourself as just one individual, that your voice does not matter. But remember, every great revolution in history began with someone who refused to remain silent. But how do you speak up without putting yourself in unnecessary danger? The key is to speak wisely. You do not have to confront those in power directly, but you can create change from within. If a colleague is being treated unfairly, support them in internal discussions. If a friend is being falsely accused, help clarify the truth instead of standing by. If you see systemic unfairness, work to change it in small, meaningful ways within your sphere of influence. Courage does not mean recklessness, and you do not need to sacrifice yourself to defend justice. You simply need to do your part. Speak the truth when it matters, and never turn away from what you know is right. Stoicism teaches that we cannot control how the world operates, but we can control how we respond to it. You may not be able to end all injustice, but you can choose not to be complicit in it. If you witness injustice and do nothing, you are silently supporting it. But if you have the courage to speak up, even in a small way, you contribute to a better world. Remember, silence does not protect you. It only empowers those who perpetuate injustice. If you want to live a life of meaning, ensure that when you witness injustice, you do not turn away. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Whatever happens, happens for a reason, but you have the power to choose your response." When faced with injustice, you have two choices: stay silent and allow it to persist, or speak up and become part of the change. The decision is yours. I used to think that great philosophies were reserved for the wise, masters who had spent decades studying and contemplating life. But the more I lived, the more I realized that philosophy is not something distant. It is found in the way we face every small moment in life. Stoicism is not meant to be locked away in thick philosophical books. It is meant to be applied right here, right now, in the midst of our struggles, in the moments when we feel consumed by the chaos of life. I once stayed silent when I saw a colleague being treated unfairly, simply because I was afraid of being dragged into trouble. I once hesitated to say no to unreasonable demands, fearing that people would no longer like me. I once hid my mistakes, thinking that if no one found out, everything would be fine. But the truth is, every time I remained silent, I felt weaker, smaller, and lost a piece of the respect I had for myself. I have learned that when I see injustice, I can speak up without causing confrontation. Sometimes a well-timed question or a simple reminder is enough to shift the course of events. If someone crosses my boundaries, I have the right to say no firmly, yet respectfully. Stoicism is not about grand theories. It is about how we choose to act in the small moments that shape our lives. And I choose not to remain silent when something needs to be said. Stoicism teaches us that courage is not the absence of fear. It is doing what is right, despite being afraid. So ask yourself, will you choose silence, or will you stand up for what you believe in? If you agree with this message, leave a comment saying, "I will speak up." And if you want to continue your journey toward becoming a stronger version of yourself, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss content that helps you take control of your life. Act today, because only you can decide how you will live. I'll see you in the next video.